Howdy folks, I'm Monty with XS Sights, and today we're going to install our new R3D 2.0 sight set on a Glock 19 MOS 8. The Glock 19 MOS 8 is the new version of the MOS from Glock. It features the aimpoint COA optic and it removes the plate system. The optic is directly mounted to the handgun. In this case, it's actually held in place by the rear sight. So it's a completely new sight system for us. It installs different than any of the other Glock rear sights you've seen from us before. So let's get started. To get started, the first thing we have to do is a visual and physical inspection to verify that we have no ammunition in the firearm. From there, we need to field strip the handgun. So we're going to close the action, point the muzzle in a safe direction, and dry fire the handgun. Now, we need to partially retract the slide and pull down on the locking levers. For me, the easiest thing to do is just to come over the top, put a little pressure. You can see I just got it out of battery. Pull down on the lock lever, and the slide will come off the handgun. Set the receiver aside. Remove the recoil spring barrel. We can set them aside because we don't need them. We're going to go ahead and start with the front sight. For some reason, that's just the way I like to do it. I got no explanation for why. That's the way I like to do it. I need my Glock sight tool. I really like the one we make. It's got a nice little magnet in the front end so that here in a minute, when I get everything apart, or I get the new screw and try to get everything cleaned, that magnet helps keep me from losing it. Really, really helpful. And I'm going to partially install that screw back in the sight. First and foremost, we will not be using that screw with our front sight. It's too long. If you try to use it, you're going to cause problems. And then that keeps me from losing the factory screw. I'm going to open my package of sights. So we have oil, which we're going to need at some point. Sticker, put it wherever you like. I use them on a lot of water bottles. Fancy card with the picture of the ownership, asking you to give us a review. We would appreciate that. It does help us quite a bit. Card, it'll have a QR code to get you to the printed instructions and all our bits and pieces. The new rear sight, the new front sight, new screws to mount the rear sight, and the rod Loctite. The red Loctite is absolutely necessary for this installation, both on the front and the rear. Set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and get my Loctite out and ready because I will need it for too long. Now, you need some form of degreaser. The instructions call for rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol works great. It's inexpensive. It's easy to find. We have gun scrubber available. I'm going to use gun scrubber. If you've got rubbing alcohol, acetone, really doesn't matter, any form of degreaser. A handful of Q-tips. This is way more than I'm going to need, but it's what I grabbed out of the box a moment ago. We will need some form of punch. I don't even know what size this is, and it's really not important on the size. We'll get to that in a bit. And some form of T10 driver. I have a screwdriver handle with a magnetic bit. Works fine. If you've got a folding set or one of the big L-arm sets like we have on the wall, those will work just fine too. Now that we have everything out, we're going to pull the screw out of the replacement front sight. That screw is in there for two reasons. First and foremost, means it doesn't get lost in shipping. Second, it's one last final quality check to make sure that the parts make together correctly before they leave our facility. So we're going to use our gun scrubber and clean everything off. We want to get rid of any dirt, debris, and oil from the slide, from the screw, and from the sight. So I'm going to start on my slide. Getting everything off the top. I'm going to run that Q-tip. These are nice and pointed, so it's kind of handy to get down in that hole. And we want to get the underside as well. For the screw itself, what's always worked best for me to make sure that I'm happy with that is get a little paper towel, a little bit of alcohol, gun scrubber, whatever the case may be, and I'm just going to pinch that between my fingernails, get a little bit of skin on there, and I'm just going to spin it through there. Again, we're just making sure that there's no oil, dirt, or debris on there. Again, magnets handy. They're worth the money, I promise. And the front sight. I want to get the base of it, where the bottom of the sight is going to contact the top of the slide. I want to get the edges of that boss where it fits down in the hole, in the slide, and then I want to try and get in there and catch the threads too. Again, we're wanting to get rid of any oil so that the Loctite can set up correctly. All right. Give that just a minute to dry. The nice thing about the gun scrubber is it'll dry real fast. This tube of Loctite is enough to do multiple firearms, so don't be skimpy on the Loctite. Again, it's required for the installation, guys. I like to make sure and get some on the top of the slide where the base of that sight body is going to sit, kind of around in that hole. One drop on the side of the screw. We'll drop the sight into the hole in the slide. Come on, get in there. We're going to start the screw. And don't tighten the screw very much yet. One, maybe two threads catch is all I want right now. Right, so that hole in the Glock slide is rather generous. It's just the way they manufacture those. The tab on the base of our sight, because it's steel, has to be made to fit in the smallest one we've ever seen. So this one's actually a pretty tight fit, but on some of them you can get that front sight a little left or a little right of being truly parallel to the bore. So before we tighten that screw, we want to take a good look at it and make sure that it's centered like we want. Right? I'm pretty happy with that. I can also pick it up and take a look through the window or through the notch on that rear sight. It looks good. I'm going to use my thumb on the top to clamp it so that it can't move much, and I'm going to come back in and tighten that screw. You'll notice, thumb and forefinger, this is not a high torque application, right? The torque spec for that screw is ridiculously low. I think it's 3 to 4 inch-pounds. So thumb and forefinger until it stops moving, and that's that. That's done. We're going to let that sit for about 15 minutes before we clean any of that Loctite off. If we start right now, it's possible that we could get a little aggressive with the Q-tips and pull all of it out. We don't want to do that, so we're going to give it a few minutes. While we're letting that sit for a minute, we'll start working on this rear sight. So the factory rear sight is held in place by 2 screws. You're going to need a T10 driver of some kind to loosen those. This one's been pulled off before. This was the handgun we actually used for development of the sight. So these aren't going to be very tight. Yours might be a little tighter than what this is, right? Just make sure you're using a good T10 driver that it fits. The nice thing about the screwdriver handle is I can put plenty of downward pressure to help make sure that the driver doesn't slip, right? First one's loose. We're going to go ahead and get on the second one. All right, second one's loose. Go ahead and get that out of there. All right, we have the factory rear sight completely free. Set those aside. Again, we include new screws. Please use the new screws. Obviously, they're going to be about the same size and definitely the same thread pitch. However, those have already been installed. They are what hold the Optic to the slide. I want new screws when I pull everything apart, just to make sure that it's going to hold well. All right. Now, you can tell I haven't had a chance to look at one of these since the team got all the parts in the kit, because we include a nice T10 driver if you've got something that uses a like this handle that uses a 1/4 inch removable bit, we include that bit for you. You will also notice on the 2 new screws, they are shiny on the threads. They're a stainless steel screw. We've coated the top so that when it's installed, you still maintain that nice plain black appearance. But the screw threads themselves are stainless to help prevent corrosion. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull the Optic off. One moment. One thing to be aware of, these 2 screw holes, let's see here, it's going to be the one on the ejection port side, this side, actually goes all the way through into the tunnel for the extractor depressor plunger. So we want to go ahead and pull the firing pin and that rod so that if we do have some Loctite that gets into that hole, it doesn't lock everything up, because that plunger needs to move a little so that the extractor works correctly. So we're going to take this punch. We're going to come in here. We're going to make sure that the firing pin is up. We're going to go in and try and get between the firing pin where it catches the cruciform and the receiver. And there's a little sleeve in there. It's hard to see, I'm sure, on the camera. But we're going to come in there, depress that, put our thumb on the back plate, and push towards the bottom of the slide. Keep your thumb in place. That extractor depressor plunger shouldn't shoot out, but just in case, I want to make sure that my thumb is right there. Get the black plate out. I'm going to pull the firing pin, the extractor depressor plunger, and spring assembly. Okay, we're going to take the new rear sight. We're going to clean everything. We'll dry fit it. We'll pull it apart, and then we're going to Loctite stuff. So, if you are using some kind of aerosolized cleaner like the gun scrubber, one thing to be very conscious of, you notice I'm holding this back here below the edge of the table when I'm spraying my Q-tip. I'm doing that to prevent any chance of that getting on the lenses of the Optic. That's not good for those lenses, so just be advised of that. Alcohol shouldn't hurt anything. Again, I would be very, very careful with that though. I am paranoid when it comes to that. I've had a couple of Optics that have had the coatings chewed off from cleaning solvent, and it pretty much just ruins the Optic. So I'm going to clean, use my punch here, I'm going to clean this flat spot on the slide and this bevel on the slide for sure. I'm also going to get another one of these Q-tips and run a little bit of gun scrubber and get both of my screw holes. Same concept as when I use the paper towel and some gun scrubber to clean the front side screw. We're going to clean both of our screws here. Easiest thing on these, put the screw on the driver, and same thing. I'm just going to trap that between the thumb and index finger and give it a wipe. It'll clean off any oil, dirt, or gunk that will prevent the Loctite from doing its thing. Finally, clean Q-tip. We're going to take our rear sight and we're going to clean where the tritium lamps are. We're going to clean that bevel, and the bottom side is the really important bits. Now these sights are BlackNitrited and fairly corrosion resistant, but once we install the lamps, we generally put a little bit of oil in them just because we like the belt and suspenders method. We want to make sure that nothing gets corroded, especially before it gets to you, the final user. So we want to make sure and get any of that oil that's there as a preservative off. Okay, we're going to go ahead and dry fit this guy. Let me turn it this way. Optic's going to drop in place. It really only fits correctly one way. just take a look at it and make sure that you have it the correct way. The battery tray goes to the ejection port side. Pick the rear side up and drop it into place. Take the first screw, just get it started. The second screw, and we'll get it started. All right, we're going to run those down again. We're just doing a dry fit to make sure that we're happy with how everything goes together. Screw just enough torque on it to get it to stop moving. Again, you can tell I'm not putting a ton of torque anywhere because it's just not necessary. Okay, everything looks pretty good. I still got a little play in the optic. We'll go ahead and tighten that up, make sure it tightens up like we want. Okay. Everything's on, it's locking up good and solid. So we're going to take it apart, apply the Loctite, and reassemble. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a drop of Loctite right here on that flat spot between my screw holes. And that's a pretty big drop. It's going to spread out. That's okay. That's what I want. I'm also going to put a drop on the slide right here on that bevel where the back end of it will go. Again, belt and suspenders. We're going to torque these screws down. Screws are going to do their thing, but Loctite is not going to hurt anything. Put the optic back in place. Put the rear sight in place. One drop of screw, and we're going to cheat and go pretty high up. Again, the hole on the ejection port side goes all the way through to that hole for the extractor depressor plunger, and I want to make sure I don't get anything in there. So in both cases, both screws, I'm going to go low enough to make sure that I get threads in the slide, but high enough to try and keep it from actually running down all the way into the hole. Get that screw started. Same thing, again, this is the screw that's going on the ejection port side, so definitely want to go high up there. And tighten them until we just start to feel a little resistance on getting them tight. Take a look at everything. Optic's where it's supposed to be. That groove in the bottom of the sight itself, the optic itself, is lined up on the ridge on the slide. We can tell because it will shift laterally. We'll go ahead and snug these up. All right. Good and snug. I don't have any play in the sight, the optic itself. I don't have any play in the iron rear sight. That's done. Again, like the front sight, we want to give that a few minutes to let that Loctite sit and creep just a little before we clean it. We are good to go on that front sight by this point in time. You can use paper towels. I'm going to use Q-tips. I got plenty of them. And I'm just going to go in and clean off all that extra Loctite that is not between the sight and the slide. Now this set is specific to the MOS 8, and it is specific to the MOS 8 guns that are double stacked. So that would be the 19, the 45, the 47. They do have a similar setup available on the 42, the 43X and the 48. Because those slides are narrower, it's going to require a different rear sight. We haven't got to them yet. We are working on that though. Installation method's going to be the same. All right. One side's done. We're going to do the same thing on the rear. I didn't have too much creep out on the rear, but I did have a little, so we're going to make sure and get that off. All right, the other thing to do on the rear sight is, these Q-tips are a little big. Need something just a hair smaller. We actually want to go down into that extractor channel very carefully, just in case we had any of that red Loctite get in there. Didn't see any red Loctite, but I did see a little bit of carbon. That can happen. All right. Now we need to reinstall the parts we removed to make sure that we had that extractor channel clear. Ideally, give it a couple of more hours. I'm going to go ahead and do it right now for the sake of the video, but let it sit for an hour, hour and a half. Double check with the Q-tip to make sure that there is no Loctite in there that could bind that assembly up, and then we're going to reassemble that. So first thing I want to do is I want to put my firing pin back in. I'm going to take my extractor depressor plunger and reinstall it. Now you'll notice one end is steel. The end with the spring has a little plastic button in there. The extractor itself is steel, and the back plate is plastic. So steel to steel, plastic to plastic. Steel end goes into that hole first. Pull the firing pin out for a second. There we go. Firing pin back in. Now I'm going to start my back plate. You'll see that I'm hitting the back of that firing pin sleeve. So I'm going to start by depressing that. Right now I'm bearing against the extractor depressor plunger assembly. I'm going to push that down, get it just started, and push it into place. To verify that we have it correct, my firing pin has a little bit of free float. I can push in the safety, and I just heard the firing pin hit the inside of the breech face, but you can actually run your finger right there and feel that the firing pin has protruded from the face. Pull it back up, and I heard the firing pin safety click back into place. All right. Final thing we want to do is we want to take our oil, a new paper towel, and we're going to give it a little wipe down if I can get this oil to find the pre-torch slot. Again, the sights are BlackNitrite. They're going to be very corrosion resistant as is. However, I can throw a little bit of extra oil on them right now, just a little bit. I'm going to take one drop, maybe two, onto my paper towel and just wipe it all down. Might as well hit the whole outside since I'm here. Take the dry portion, wipe off that bit of excess. Front side. Rest of the slide. Same thing on this side. The new rear side. Trying to keep the oil off the optic lens. Q-tip would also work really good. Okay. It's assembled, or it's disassembled. I have oil. I'm going to put a drop in each slide rail just because I can. Along with all of them myself. These things happen. And there we go. We have successfully installed a set of R3D 2.0s on a Glock 19 MOS 8. For this set of sights and any of the other excellent options we make for your carry guns or your hunting guns, please visit our website at www.xssights.com. Thanks everybody. Hope y'all have a great day. Have fun, shoot well.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Also, be sure to be following us on Instagram and Facebook to be up to speed in all the new things that we're doing. If you guys want early access into some of those cool things that we're doing, make sure that you're signed up for our email newsletter. You guys get exclusive discounts, early promos, and like I said, insights to all the new things that we're doing. As an American-made, family-owned company, our mission is to empower the good guy to be more confident, self-reliant, and prepared through functional weapon upgrades. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.